Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Peacebuilding Initiatives with José Barzola. I'm the Conflict and Peace Specialist here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. As a Conflict and Peace Specialist, I provide a neutral, private, and independent resource to assist the UHM community navigating conflicts, disputes, and complaints on an informal basis. I serve as a conflict coach, educator, mediator, facilitator, information gatherer, simply an active listener. I also develop program peace-building initiatives that are focused on the importance of dialogue and cross-cultural understanding. Peace-building initiatives are collaborative ways of developing healthy, positive relationships via dialogue, cross-cultural understanding, and exploring ways to shift our own perspective to build compassion and empathy within our communities. Thank you for joining us today. On today's episode, we have Laurie Rubin, who is one of the founders and co-artistic directors of the Ohana Arts. She's a singer, author, who has concertized internationally at such venues as Carnegie Hall, London's Wigmore Hall, the Kennedy Center, and the White House, just to mention a few. Recent career highlights include duet concerts with world-renowned mezzo-soprano Frederica Von Stade, at DePauw University in Indiana, and the Ravinia Festival in Chicago, a solo appearance with the LA Chamber Orchestra, and a performance at the International Human Rights Conference in Lucerne, Switzerland. She's performed numerous operatic roles, including the witch voice in Lisa Bielawa's episodic TV opera Vireo, Elle in Poulenc. I'm going to mess up these names, and I do apologize. I tried. Wonder Women opera, La Voix Humane, Penelope in Monteverdi, The Return of Ulysses, and the title role in Rossini's La Cenerentola. After the publication of her memoir, Do You Dream in Color, in 2012, Laurie embarked on the national concert and book tour, weaving stories from her life with relevant musical selections. She served as lyricist and co-bookwriter for the groundbreaking new musical Peace on Your Wings, which has toured Hawaii, Los Angeles, and New York, as well as Japan. Laurie also joined with composer Jennifer Taira to form the pop duo Pure Land, writing and performing original music. Laurie is a graduate of the Oberlin Conservatory of Music and the Yale School of Music. A little bit about the Ohana Arts. It's a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization with a mission to inspire, engage people through high caliber educational and professional arts programs, and to cultivate an international family, Ohana, in the Pacific by promoting world friendship and peace through the universal language of the arts. Ohana Arts seeks to provide opportunities for students at varying levels of experience, ability, and skill levels in a nurturing yet disciplined environment in which they can develop to the fullest artistic, ethical, and intellectual standards as individuals and responsible members of a changing global society. You can learn more about them at www.ohanaarts.org. So thank you so much for being with us today. I just want to, first off, if it's okay, share a little bit about my connection to the Ohana Arts that has led to today's collaboration. And it's been long coming for about 4 years now. So I first learned about the Ohana Arts and Peace on Your Wings in preparation for a virtual talk story with Hiromi Peterson and Naomi Hirano Miso in August of 2020. The introduction to that event was with a pre-recorded video of the cast reuniting for a virtual performance of Peace on Your Wings. Since then, it has been on my bucket list to one day be in the audience for the musical. And my experience has gone surpassed that most definitely. In January 2023, Owen Tamamoto shared with me an email from sister Gail Taira about the Peace on Your Wings performance in February 2023. Unfortunately, I already had a collaborative project where I was traveling to Japan, to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, along with a delegation of students from the university. So I wasn't able to make that, but thankfully our mutual friend Auntie Maya introduced us to Hanako Wakatsuki Chung, who then connected me to Laurie in about a year ago in November 2023 to attend the viewing of the musical. I have to say thank you so much for your kindness and grace as you invited me to showing a Peace on Your Wings at Mauna Loa High School Performing Arts Center, as well as joining the cast on the pre-show circle. I have to share with you that I love collecting life-changing experiences that turn into beautiful memories, and that's exactly what that day was for me. From arriving at the Arts Center, the kindness of everyone involved in the program, being welcomed to the back, getting to meet the team, being invited into the circle, and actually standing in the center of the circle as you all led in the pre-show circle song. Then getting to view the musical. I must share that in the past 7 years that I have had the opportunity to learn the story of Sadako for the many books that are written, as well as getting to meet Masahiro Sasaki, Sadako's brother, for another collaborative um, project I was involved in, then to having the humble experience of hearing and moderating testimonials from Hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors for both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The musical was an amazing culmination of all those memories and emotions for me. So thank you. Thank you so much for the passion for what you do and what you continue to do and for continuing the stories forward. So it is really my honor to have you here today. So thank you so much. So
It's an honor to be with you. It really is. Thank you so much for having me today.
um but well we'll get started with a couple of questions and then we'll see where today's conversation goes.
Yeah.
But would love to really just learn initially what inspired you to co-found, Ohana Arts, and what was the initial vision for your organization?
Well, it's so funny. So Jenny and I, my wife Jenny, I should say, who's actually the executive director of Ohana Arts, and the whole thing was her brainchild. The two of us were living in New York. This was way back in I think we moved there like in 2004. And we lived there for several years. And after a while living in New York, even though we were doing some fun performances and we were having an exciting, really inspiring time, being able to go to shows when we wanted to and everything, and doing some really fun collaborations. I think what we realized is that there was something missing. And we went through we kind of did this thing where we had this whiteboard or something on we were living my mom had this apartment and we had usurped her apartment, and so we had this whiteboard, and Jenny started writing down our 5 to 10 year goals. And we were in our 20s, and we were feeling somewhat like something was just not the way it was supposed to be. And one of the goals that Jenny had written down was she wanted to start a school in Hawaii for the performing arts. And the inspiration from that came from um, well, we both were in high school programs that were really just incredible experiences, formative experiences in our lives for the performing arts. And for her, she went to the Interlochen Arts Camp. And these camps, like the Interlochen Arts Camp, it's comprised of students and faculty. Really, a lot of times the faculty are quite famous um, in various different disciplines of the arts. So they do have musical theater, and they do have a drama. They have classical, instrumental, and orchestral music. And Jenny was actually in the orchestra program. And she was a senior in high school, and she had won a full Emerson Electric Scholarship to attend that program. And it was like a several week, I think it was maybe 9 weeks. And she said she would never have been able to afford it if it hadn't been for that scholarship. And what it made her realize is that there's so much out there for the performing arts that we don't necessarily know about here in Hawaii because we're far away. There's literally an ocean between us and the rest of the mainland. And traveling is expensive. And also just the way, because the cost of living is so high here, it's almost impossible for almost anyone who lives in Hawaii to be able to afford the tuition. Whereas on the mainland, you've got a plethora of programs you can attend. And so she felt like after going to this program, and then one of the biggest, most inspiring experiences for her was being at the final concert. The top orchestra there is called the World Symphony Orchestra. So they do a final concert. And I believe she was in that orchestra. And they have flags from every single or all the countries that are represented by the students at Interlochen. And they do this whole thing with like fireworks and these flags. And it made her realize that there are countries that you think about being not necessarily allies. And yet when you're connected to everybody at a camp, it does not, nothing matters. Like the conflict doesn't matter because you're all connected through this vulnerable language that we speak together, which is the arts. And that really creates a peaceful environment. And I think that's also an Interlochen culture and mission as well. And so that's something we wanted to start here in Hawaii. So, she sold me on that dream pretty quick when we were sitting at that whiteboard. And I felt the same way because I was a totally blind student in school. I felt a lot of the time very alienated because I was the only blind student in this school that I went to. It was a college prep school, not unlike Punahou and Iolani. And so I was a little bit of an alien at that school. And I didn't have a lot of friends, and I experienced a little bit of that passive aggressive bullying where you sort of get just somehow you're uninvited to all the parties like that happened. It was just I wasn't actively physically bullied, but it was one of those like let's figure out a way not to include Laurie. And it was hard on me. And so when I did arts camps, like I went to the camp that I went to was the Boston University Tanglewood Institute. And I went for 6 weeks and it just changed my life because music was a level playing field. Didn't matter how different we all were because we were all different. And we all just found each other to be very lifelong friends through music. And so when Jenny was mentioning that she wanted to start this, I was like, yes, because I want to give back. And the thing about performing, which is so wonderful, is you get this high from it and you connect with the audience for about an hour or two. And you do, it's very meaningful. And sometimes people cry and sometimes you cry, on stage. And it's very meaningful. But after that's all over, what's the takeaway? What have we done? What kind of a mark have we left? What kind of thing have we left behind other than just creating this wonderful afternoon or evening with some other folks? And I think the thing about Ohana Arts, what we feel all the time is that there's a long lasting and just life changing impact that you can have on students, just like how Interlochen and the Boston University Tanglewood Institute had that impact on our lives. And so that was our start. That's a very long answer.
No, thank you so much. I'm a big fan of storytelling, so thank you
I'm
for
so glad.
bringing us back. I
Yeah.
imagine had you like been to Hawaii before then, or
That's a
you
funny
just
story.
you were just like sold on the idea of like, yes, I want to start a nonprofit in Hawaii while you're living in New York.
Well, it's really funny because so Jenny and I first met at Yale. So she was in the clarinet studio and I was in the opera program. But we met through a mutual friend. And so I remember she had told me, she said to me, or I asked her what her lifelong goals were because you ask those kind of deep questions at 3 in the morning. And
Love it.
and she goes, well, I think I would like to play with the Honolulu Symphony, to be in the orchestra. And I remember thinking to myself, there is no way you can get me to live in Hawaii. And the reason I said that, famous, never say never, famous last words, the whole thing. The reason I said that is because when I was growing up in Los Angeles, we would go to Hawaii for vacation. But the way that I saw Hawaii was from this like almost, I don't want to, it was like we in a resort sort of situation where
Yeah,
we were
the
at a
tourist lens.
hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was in a hotel, and then we had the whole beautiful Hawaii atmosphere. But mostly, I was in a situation where most of the people around us in the hotel were like our family, like from LA. So all we experienced was that tourist, and we knew the international marketplace, which has unfortunately changed because that was so charming, it used to be. But we experienced it in such a through that, as you say, like that lens, and it was the tourists, and not that there was anything wrong with it, but it just felt like you were going to a resort to vacation. It didn't appear that there was very much to do, and I just remember my mom saying, "Oh my God, everybody drives so slow here." um, and so we went to Hawaii for several years because we loved it. I mean, the weather's great. The pools are wonderful. The beaches are gorgeous. So everything about our experience was great. It just wasn't what you would think of as if you're spending, so much time trying to build an arts career. You don't think of there being that much off to offer in this landscape. But um, when Jenny and I got together at Yale, I went to visit her family, and all it took me was one, like getting to the airport and meeting her family after one night. I was like, yes, I could live here. It did not take long. It took 24 hours, and I was like, I never want to leave.
Amazing. I love
And I
that.
think the lay giving and all the community stuff that goes on here, it makes you just want to just give back. Like, and this is exactly why I could see Jenny wanted to start a program here because there's so much gratitude and there's so much community building and so much like mutual effort on everybody's side to make something work. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. And you never know what life has in store for you. And I think that's the beautiful thing of
Yeah.
it, just be embracing the adventure. So thank you for doing
100%.
that.
Oh my God. And I'm curious. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like you're like that too, right? Because you're like
Yes.
like me, you're a transplant where you like that too. When
Yeah.
you came here, like to live here, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, for me, unfortunately,
Mhm.
my only insights of Hawaii were
Mhm.
what entertainment industry provides, which is a
Right.
very, curated lens. And
Yes.
I think nowadays maybe they go a little bit deeper into some of the actual social issues that are being impacting the islands. But
Hmm.
when I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, no, it wasn't like that. It was like Waikiki and beaches and luau's, and yeah, you did not learn about the actual issues that the community is facing day by day, and
Right.
so in how it's different across the islands and even different regions of the island. So yeah, no,
Right.
so it's been a very much appreciate the opportunity um to go on this journey and to learn further, and also explore ways to connect and collaborate and give back to the community that
Right.
is supporting us in so many different ways. So
Right.
very thankful for that.
That's
um
awesome.
could you maybe going back a little bit to your arts journey, could you share your
Hmm.
own personal journey in the art and how it influenced your work with Ohana Arts? I know you went into it a little bit, but um, I mean, based
Yeah.
on your bio, you have quite the rapport of experiences.
Oh my goodness. Well, I started singing when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and it was because my grandparents were really into opera. And so I would listen to they would play, the old video, this is aging me, right? All the VHS tapes of the Metropolitan Opera broadcasts and things like that, the things that they had recorded either from PBS or just had from just
It's
purchasing
beautiful.
them at the video store.
Oh, that's so
And
beautiful.
I know, so they would always make me listen to Carmen or La Boheme, and it was part of my childhood education. And so I just loved it. I would imitate the singers, and I really enjoyed imitating the singers. And so my grandparents were like, maybe you should try voice lessons. And true to singer fashion, although I shouldn't say this is giving singers a bad name, but I just was not good at practicing the piano. And I would just sing along when my piano teacher would give me something to play. And she'd say, I think you should just try singing. And sure. So my mom, I think it was probably
Oh,
money well spent to give up the piano lessons and to switch into voice. Um, I'm so sorry, I'm dealing with this cough, but so I switched to voice lessons when I was 11, and I started singing pop music just because that's what kids do. And then I saw Phantom of the Opera like just a few months later, and it changed my life. Like it just literally changed
oh,
my life as soon as I
amazing.
heard. And it's like the story is amazing, just like hearing, and then it starts out like in the present, and then it goes back and flashback, and then you hear this amazing overture with the organ playing, and it
Yes,
just
yes.
resonates in your chest. And then it's just so anyway, I was brought into that world and I never came out of it. And that's why I started singing. And it turned out that music was exactly what I felt like I was meant to do. It was the language that connected to me to all my friends. I started doing the All-State Honor Choir which is like, there's kids from all over the state that audition for this big choir from all over the place, every single, socioeconomic background you can imagine. And it's just, we all had singing in common and we were all from different schools. And it was like the most bonding experience. And coming from a private school where, most of us were from the same area, the same demographic, all that stuff. It was really nice and refreshing to meet people from all over and with different stories. So I've always felt like everybody's story is so cool and so unique. So I am that annoying person that will talk to somebody on the airplane next to me because I'm just so fascinated by everybody's story. Um, and so after doing, all this high school stuff, I figured, well, this is where I'm meant to be. So I auditioned. I went to Oberlin Conservatory, followed that with going to Yale Opera, and moved to New York. And then Jenny and I moved to New York together, my wife. And excuse me. So she also went to Yale. And so we met. She was in the clarinet studio. And I would say that the line that got us together was, "Will you sing on?" She asked me if I would sing on her clarinet recital. So that was like our first date. was rehearsing for her recital literally because her pianist had accidentally double booked. So we ended up having a dessert, and so that was literally our first unofficial date. Um, but anyway, so everything in life we pretty much now do together. But in the meantime, I was also auditioning for opera companies and also doing some gigs freelance, and then Jenny was also auditioning for stuff, and we were having that like rude awakening of being New Yorkers. I mean, moving to New York and feeling like fish out of water. And then eventually just started to matriculate our way and make connections and then, do our own gigs. But then we ended up finding a lot of fun and success, working together, writing our own music and performing together. And so that's what we still do. And I think really that's what led us to doing Peace on Your Wings, because we started writing another album together of just kind of pop, what was influenced by classical and other styles that we just found that we loved. And then when in 2013, or 2010 rather, we started Ohana Arts, and we had been living in New York for like 7 years together. And I think again, that's when we started to get that itch. Like there's something, I don't know, something not right. Like we just needed to do something else. And so we started Ohana Arts in 2010 while we were still living in New York. And then we were like, okay, we bit the bullet and we just made the big move and we moved to Hawaii. And that's when everything just felt like it fit and everything just started to happen. And it's like the universe. Whenever you do something where you're following your intuition in the universe, it just seems like everything falls into place. And so both the career of our performing and also Ohana Arts took off. And we started with like 30 kids in one show and our wonderful, amazing partner was the Hongwanji Mission School. And Jenny's sister was actually the performing theater director there. And she's one of the founders of Ohana Arts. And so we did our first show, our first summer show there. And then the next year we had 60 kids in 2011. And then just from there, like we were at the Hongwanji Mission School and it was an amazing environment. And I think it's because of the values set by the Hongwanji Mission School and also the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii, like the really interdependence and gratitude and community. I think that's why Ohana Arts really embodies those same values and why we continue. I mean, we are so lucky that we had those beginnings and that foundation from the Hongwanji Mission School. And then in 2017, we were starting to outgrow the spaces that were available to us at the Hongwanji Mission School. And we moved to UH. And it was really timely because the Kennedy Theater was looking for a youth theater company and they were going to start their own. But when they found out Ohana Arts was looking, they were like, wait, that's great. We have everything in place. We don't have to do it ourselves. That's awesome. And so we ended up going to UH. And now their team of like their tech teams always work with us. A lot of their students end up being working on staff with us or sometimes on faculty. And that's where things have gone with Ohana Arts. And in 2013, while we were still at the Hongwanji Mission School, we were approached by then Bishop Eric Matsumoto of the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii, who I feel like knows everybody in Hawaii. He's just so wonderful and a great leader.
Yes, he does.
Right. And right.
Yes.
And it's funny, when I first met him, I thought, wow, this is so interesting. I'm used to the fire and brimstone leaders. I'm used to because I'm born and raised Jewish. I'm used to the rabbis who are very loud and, very effective, but very loud. And I'm used to, when you think of the president, very loud or just big personality, because, so when I met Bishop Eric, I thought, wow, he's so interesting because he's a great leader, but he's so quiet. And I remember thinking that is genius. He's an amazing person because he gets people to do things because he's so quiet and he's able to connect people in the right ways. And he's just really amazing. So, and wise, the wisdom that comes out of him it's palpable. It's amazing. But in 2013, he came up to us and he actually asked Carrie, because he knew Carrie the best. That's Jenny's sister, one of our co-founders. And he said, I really want you to take a musical because I'm seeing a lot of your Ohana Arts shows. I see how important it is to the community. I would love for you to take a show and tour it to the neighbor islands. And I'll give you some money, from the Honpa will help to sponsor, will help to be one of your sponsors for this. And we were like, oh my gosh, what a great opportunity. And so Jenny, heard this because Carrie said, what should we do? And Jenny was like, well, I've always wanted to write a musical, a Broadway style musical for kids, because there is no such, there are musicals for kids, but a lot of them are actually like kind of abridged and watered down versions of shows that are done on Broadway. So they're not quite perfect for the life experiences of kids or the challenges of youth. And so she loved the story of Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. And that's what ended up being the subject of Peace on Your Wings. And that's how that got born. And it was perfect too, because Sadako's brother, was very active with the Buddhist community because of his peace, his longstanding relationships with Bishop and their mission of really creating a peaceful community. So he was often at a lot of the peace days ceremonies here in Hawaii through the Hongwanji. We met him a couple of times and, didn't even realize who he was or, I didn't know anything about the story of Sadako. So I just remember hearing him speak in Japanese and not knowing really who he was. And then after learning the story, I was like, oh my God, he was a celebrity. Like, I can't believe I didn't know this man. Um,
He's a very modest man. Yes, he is.
isn't he just
Yes.
incredible? Yeah. And so that's how Peace on Your Wings got born. And we also got a grant from the Mayor's Office of Culture and the Arts. And we are like, oh, we better write this because there's a time limit when we could use this grant. And so that's what got us started. And we've over the last 10 years, we've been writing and rewriting and rewriting and doing more research. So we know a lot about Sadako and her family and also the Unity group that got her monument built. So all these people are like celebrities to us. So
Yes.
Masahiro came to see the show in one of our first iterations of the show, which now I look at and go, oh, poor thing. We made him sit through this 3 hour show. Um, but he was so gracious. And in fact, we did a press conference afterwards because NHK was there. And he took the girl that played Sadako in his arms and just embraced her and was like crying and just saying arigato and thank you. And he called her Sadako. And it was like she was there, it was just really incredible. Ah, so and healing, I think you realize that art is so healing. So it was a really wonderful experience. And so Peace on Your Wings has continued for the last 10 years. And we've toured to LA, we've toured to New York, and we've toured to the Bay Area, so San Francisco, Sacramento, um, and San Jose. But right after we did our premiere, we went to the neighbor islands to fulfill the wish of the bishop and also the Hompa, and we did several performances on the neighbor islands. But that model, it was actually really what got us to all the other cities because we learned that the Hompa was so supportive, and then the Buddhist Churches of America became that sort of umbrella for the mainland. So, and that's how we've gotten our audience. That's how we've gotten financial support and also just like hospitality support too when we've traveled all over the place. So it's been a real grassroots effort, but it's been
Yeah.
just incredible. And then we just recently went to Hiroshima with Peace on Your Wings in 2023.
That's amazing. I thank you so much for just sharing. And I'm so sorry you're not 100%.
Oh, it's okay. No, I just feel bad for your poor
No, no,
listeners.
no, 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 not at all. Don't worry. And thank you so much for just sharing the basically just the power of community and
Yeah.
how, this opportunity came up and you were like, yes, let's go with it. And it's evolved and yeah, and just to be able to, I'm just thinking back to like my initial question and how talking about your grandparents, and
Hmm.
it's funny how we're so shaped by those that raise us, those that are around
Yes.
us at a young age,
Hmm.
and that is not a lived experience of most youth where they're like, let me play some opera music for you, and
Right.
I think what beautiful way to like carry on the love, the spirit of your ancestors than the work that you do
Mm.
currently. So thank you for that. And
Oh,
just
of
I think there's a
course.
lot of beautiful lessons to be learned there, and also just connecting across different communities, different cultures, um
Sure.
and the story Sadako, yes, it's the
Hmm.
story of a Japanese girl from Hiroshima in Japan, but
Hmm.
it's one that's transcended beyond just the Japanese community, one that's connected folks to, the stories of resilience. And I will say, just from having experienced Peace on Your Wings, I think that there are not, yeah, you're right. There are not many shows out there that share the story of youth by
Hmm.
youth.
Right.
It's always adults playing the youth
Right.
parts. And so I think it's even more impactful that way, or just one that's even like that long of a show. Because I think the ones that I've been to are normally like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, they're
Sure.
um
Exactly.
and there's no way you could do that story justice in that short time span. So I'm thankful
Right.
that you been able to the communities come out. It was like right place right time with the Kennedy Theater,
Yeah.
and just yeah. So um and I think for trying to sometimes I try to like think about perspectives, and like for Masahiro son, like how I know that after part of his lived experience has been like donating Sadako's cranes to different areas around the world to carry on the message
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
peace and the story of Sadako. But I imagine he never thought, there would be a whole play about Sadako's story, or to be able to, as I think because you're in the ins and outs of designing and fixing things. Um,
Mm,
you can think
right.
that initial play may not have been as powerful, but I think for the audience, every first session is just as powerful.
Yeah, that's
And I
true.
think
Yeah.
because I mean for me it was not only I felt as though like all the stories of Hibakusha that I've heard, and besides learning about Sadako myself and
Mm,
just having my own kids too, so it just kind of hit really close to home. Um,
right. Oh, that's
when I was
awesome.
in that space. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you for what you've put together. Thank you for these opportunities you're creating for youth to be, leaders and to be able to attain such amazing skill sets at such a young age where
Yeah.
there may have not been that space before. So you've kind of gone into some of my other questions, but
Oh, I'm so
no, no,
sorry.
no, nothing wrong with that. But I just want to, I'm trying to like see which ones. So maybe a little bit about your different programs. So might you
Sure.
share a little bit what types of programs and workshops do you offer, and how do they cater to like different age groups and skill levels?
Yeah. Okay. So we're just starting to actually grow year round as well. Because for the longest time, really our main program was a summer program that we would do every year. And just recently we started offering offerings in the fall and in the spring. Um, so breaking down the summer program, what we have is the biggest program is at UH, and it's for students ages 8 to 18. And they're separated into different classes by age, so that they can take in a curriculum that makes sense for them and is age appropriate and the whole thing. And they learn acting, they learn dance and music, and they have different sessions they rotate through during the day. And then we also have productions so that at certain times in the day, they also then rehearse for if they are signed up for it. Because we usually divide the program into two halves. It's either um, it's the class half, which sometimes is a 3 week long program. And then the production is the second 3 weeks, and their immersion basically all day doing one or the other. But actually, I think what we're going to be doing this summer is actually it'll be split so that the morning part of the 6 week period, it's going to be just a 6 week program. And then the morning part is all classes in acting, dance, music, voice lessons, and all of that. And then in the afternoons, they're switch modes and then they go into production. And then they start rehearsing and we choose, every year we choose different productions that we think are good for kids and also that they like. So last year we did West Side Story. We did the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And I think you saw Moana Jr.
Yes, yes, that was
So,
wonderful. Thank you.
oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And we do our very best. And we know we don't have that much time because 7 weeks is really short. But we try to give them, the fundamentals and as much as we can in all of the, the acting, dance, and singing aspects of theater, and encourage them to do more stuff when they can during the year. But it's really immersive and really intense. And then when we do the productions, we try to give them like the full set experience, the full costumes. If we can, we do orchestra. We'll have a full orchestra on stage just so that they see what the possibilities are and they're creating and part of this big team. And it's really, really effective and they love it. Um, and during the year, right now, we're running several different workshops. We have one for the middle and high school kids. They're actually going to be performing Beetlejuice Jr. Excuse me. And then
Classic, bringing it
I
back.
know, and they're so into it. It's so fun. So we'll be running those in December, like the culminating performances at Tenny Theater. And then also we're going to be doing I have a production workshop at the Hanahaoli School. One of them is the kids that are basically from fourth through sixth grade. They're doing Adam's Family Kids, which is about a 30 to I think it's 45-minute long show. And so they're doing that. And then there's a same at Hanahaoli School. We have a program that's first through third graders, and they're doing a Disney show. And so we'll keep trying to expand our offerings. We may also just have some specialized classes in addition to productions, and really just kind of we're taking things as they go and seeing where there's this need. But there definitely is need because, especially in the public school system, especially for elementary school, there's not quite as much offered because the arts budgets are the first to go and to get cut down. And then we're fortunate that for the middle and high schoolers, there are 5 learning centers here on island that are dedicated to the performing arts. Um, but even so, there's still not enough. There's just not enough opportunities, and so I think that being able to come to a program after school to do performing arts is really, really important for their development. And we do have kids that their parents have shared with us that, they started this theater program, several grades behind in reading level, a grade level behind in reading. And then because they're so motivated to learn their lines and their script, their reading level just gets boosted up. And so they'll start the next year ahead, which is really incredible because you don't even we don't think about all those sort of scientific, developmental phenomena. We're focused on the arts, but what's cool is knowing that there's so many ripple effects the ripple effect is huge when you're thinking of the performing arts and how it ripples down into other academic subjects. And I think also mental health, emotional health, psychiatric health, because kids, in school, I know I was one of them. I really, really, I would never say that I was personally quite suicidal, but I did not have a place and I had very low self-esteem in my middle school experiences until I found the performing arts. I was lost. And I think what's so wonderful is being able to give back to kids and giving a place to find themselves. Whether or not they decide to perform in the future, to me, to all of us, it's really important that they find themselves and find self-expression and leadership and teamwork and all these things, public speaking. This all comes out of being comfortable on stage. And of course, the reading and all the stuff that we didn't even think about. So it's really cool, really wonderful what we've seen come out of it.
Thank you so much. You kind of lead it to my next question a little bit, which it's
Great.
wonderful. I was going to ask, how have you seen, or maybe there's any specifics you kind of alluded to, helping with reading to some of the youth, and just connecting socially across the board. But
Mhm.
also, I don't know if there's any specific stories of young artists whose life has maybe been transformed, whether it's personally, professionally. I know you've been around for 10 plus years now.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
I imagine there's some folks that have been with you every day until they eventually have to be like, oh no, I'm graduating high school and I
Ah,
have to go to college. Can I still continue on in
yeah,
some way? So just,
yeah. No, you're right. Okay, so one particular interesting thing, that theme that does come up is that there are students that have been with us since they're 6 years old, and
oh,
then they stay with us. And so one of our students, she's adorable and so sweet, and she's going to be I think she's oh my gosh, I think she's a junior. Oh my gosh. But she said to us recently, I have not missed a program yet. Like she's keeping track, And yeah, and she's grown. She started off as this little baby talent and amazing, as a 6-year-old. But now watching her grow into like she'll probably be with us until she graduates, and how amazing, just watching her grow has been, and getting to know her family. There's several kids like that. There's another one, a young man who was started off as the youngest child in the program, and then just kept going with us. And now he's graduating. There's a lot of that. Yeah. And then they come back to work with us. They work as our staff or faculty. One student I'll tell you about, she started with us 2013 as a senior and has since been with us as a dance professor, a dance faculty member almost every single year. There've been a few years where she's taken off, but her work is, I'm getting chills. Her work is incredible. And to be able to say that, we had her in Ohana Arts, it's really, really amazing for us to be able to watch her grow. As not only as a student, but as a faculty, a teacher who is one of the best teachers I've seen, both with classroom management and being able to break down these choreographic steps and dance combinations, and like better than some of the college professors we bring out, to be honest. And it's just amazing because she now works as an elementary school teacher, so that those skill sets really help as well, combined with her passion for dance and her skills. Excuse me. And another example of a really impactful situation with a student is our first Sarako, where she came into Ohana Arts because she was kind of like her mom was a temple member for one of the for and her I guess her one of the sort of what do you call it, Hanai grandparents. They go to Jenny's the temple that Jenny was born and raised into with the Mililani Hongonji. And so this girl had just found out about it because of her Hanai grandparents. And so she did Ohana Arts going in, I think she was going into seventh grade, a little like, and she was incredible. We didn't realize she had never had any performing arts experience and was just unreal and was one of the most, actually one of the biggest inspirations by why we wanted to write a musical, because she and some of the kids in her class or in her grade level were so good, so talented, but also just so passionate about what we were doing. And so that was just really incredible. And so when we were working with her mom shared with us that she had her in like summer fun and that she would never talk to anyone, this girl, never. She came home and she was angry. Like she just was never talked to anyone in her summer camp. And when she did Ohana Arts, it was like she turned into her who she's supposed to be. Like she was herself. She was funny, charismatic, happy. Like you would never guess that this was an angry child who didn't talk to anyone. And that's a huge thing for us to hear. So that's another example of like something that we see. And then actually we've had a couple of similar cases of that. Like we've had a student recently, who came from a really crazy family situation, like, just crazy family situation. And then found the performing arts and like has told us that she finally felt like she found herself. And now she knows what she wants to do with her life. So it's
That's
just, I mean,
beautiful.
they go on and I mean, and when people say, oh my God, you work so, you do so much fundraising and you have to do this and that, it's hard sometimes. But when you think of the rewards, you realize, well, yeah, this is why we're doing what we do. And it is hard. It's hard work, but it's a labor of love. It's just because of these stories and because these kids mean so, I mean, when people ask me how many kids we have, I say, it's funny. We have 3 of our own kids. And I say, we have 100 kids, maybe 200, because all of these kids mean so much to us. And we love every single one of them.
That's amazing. I love
It's
it.
great.
And just going back to, your original name, it is about
Mm,
family and it
yes.
is you're cultivating that. And especially here in Hawaii where and I think it is very common in lots of other places outside
Mm,
in the world where it's the community that is family. It's not just the folks that are blood related. So
absolutely.
you're there
Everything but blood,
uplifting.
as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you're doing and continue to
Oh,
do. And
thank you.
it's great to hear that just because you're graduating high school doesn't mean it's over. There's still opportunities to continue to
Oh,
get involved in different ways. And
we don't
so
let our kids go. No, we're like, you just be careful. You're sucked in for life. Sorry. And we do we're going to do alumni shows because we have so many
Oh,
talented alumni.
how exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And I'll
Yes.
tell you, what happens to Hawaii kids. Some of them will go on and do, there's a lot of Hawaii kids who do musical theater and performing arts around the world. I mean, it's wonderful, but a lot of them can't bear to leave Hawaii. They go to college on the mainland and they just really miss home because Hawaii is such a special place. And so our goal also is to really figure out a way to make a viable path for alumni. Even if it says like they do it once in a while, but hopefully we want to eventually, yeah, just bring our alumni back and feature them in different kinds of shows that they would do as students. So yeah.
Sounds like there's an adult version in the works for the
We'll see. Yeah, we're
future.
starting to build our alumni. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, wonderful. Um, I know you talked a little bit about community engagement and collaboration with different
Mm,
folks and artists. Now, just kind of bringing it back to being here in
mm,
Hawaii,
hmm.
just might you share a little bit about like how has Ohana Arts incorporated Hawaiian culture into its programming?
Oh, Hawaiian culture. Um, I think just, I think the culture itself, we haven't done as like we hope to do more shows that are actually focused in the Hawaiian culture and stuff. I think we also feel a little bit reverent and, because we know that people, Jenny and Carrie are actually Japanese American. And so in our organization, we've had a couple of choreographers and stuff come through who are Hawaiian, who have infused so much of this beautiful culture. We did Moana Junior last summer And we had a great choreographer who comes from a Hawaii cultural background. And it was very important to us to have somebody, you know, who is Hawaiian working on the show because, you know, Moana has so much of that, you know, as its base, its foundation. Um, in the future, one of the things that we are doing, because we do have a youth theater component of our program, which I forgot to talk about. So Peace on Your Wings was sort of the inspiration for this because we didn't know how it was going to go with this show, but you know, it's really made us realize that there's a need for more repertoire for youth theater. And so what we'd like to do in the future is commission and produce works, not only just because Jenny and I wrote Peace on Your Wings, but to find other writers as well, either to collaborate with or to have them write shows. And this is where we could bring in more of the Hawaiian component. So, for example, we were talking to Lee Cataluna at one point about doing a show that has more of a Hawaiian flair. That would be something that would feature our students, and we could do that as one of our youth theater shows. It wouldn't necessarily be through our normal classes and summer program, but it would be just its own project. And then, so that's for the Hawaiian, you know, component. We hope to do that. Also, so Jenny's cousin is Lee Tonauchi, who's known as the Pigeon Gorilla. And so he writes everything in Pidgin, and he's preserving not only that, but also Okinawan culture, and especially Hawaii Okinawan culture. Or Hawaii, I should be very careful about how I say this, but Hawaii Okinawan culture. And so he's written a beautiful book called, or play called Okinawan Princess. And so he wants to adapt it he wants to turn it into a musical. And so Jenny and I told Jenny, I'm a Howley girl. I don't know about this. I don't know if I can do pigeon lyrics, but I'll try, you know. No, but I'm kidding. So, but she and I and Lee will work on this adaptation for turned into a musical. And so because of the pigeon element, there certainly will be a Hawaiian flair to it, and also it will, you know, focus a little bit on this Hawaii Okinawan culture that's built up over the many, many, many years and
It sounds as
almost
though
century.
there's a wealth, and that's the thing when I say Hawaiian culture, there's like so much to take from,
Yes.
that statement itself, because it's not
Hmm.
just, yes, most definitely the Kanaka Maoli Native Hawaiian experience. There's
Hmm.
the Japanese, there's the Okinawan, there's the Filipino, and the
Yes.
list goes on and on and
Oh,
on that I have not
yes.
mentioned yet. But yeah, no, and so it sounds as though there's endless opportunities, and I'm glad that you all are, in the works, and yeah, there's
Yes.
a it's a sounds like you're in a really good journey. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for what you're
Yeah.
doing. I
I
I
love
just
it.
wanted to talk a little bit about navigating some challenges, especially
Yeah.
with whether it's the global pandemic or just uh,
Mm.
keeping a nonprofit going for so many years. What have been some of the biggest challenges in running Ohana Arts, and how have you gone about overcoming them?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that we are in a small place. You know, Hawaii is a smaller, you know, and the pots of money that are available are smaller. Just, you know, given where we are, you know, even the fact that the banks here are really just, and this is a beautiful thing too, that the banks here, it's not like these big national banks, like when you think about Bank of America and stuff like that. We have our own banks. How cool is that? Um, but because we are somewhat insular in a sense, but in a good way mostly. But one of the ways that it's been a little bit detrimental for us is that there are so many pots of money to tap into, and there's also so many organizations that need it that are really, really deserving of all this money. And also, we're new to the island relatively. I mean, we've been around this will be our 16th season. So it may not sound so new, but we're relatively new. When you think about Diamond Head Theater, that's been around for 100 years, right? And so, rightfully so, there are people who are showing loyalty to DHT. I would be really disturbed if all of a sudden they weren't, right? So, you want that loyalty. But at the same time, you want people to be open-minded to, you know, newer organizations. And so that breaking in, that getting people to know who we are, is harder. And also, we don't want them to also think, oh, who are these upstarts who think they can just take over? You know, I understand people are very, very protective of their organizations that are here because they're all doing such wonderful work, and because we are such a small place. And we just always want to say that we're very, very aware of that and respectful, and that we don't want to, take anyone else's piece of the pie, but rather create a new one that benefits everybody. And it's just about cross-pollination. It's about working together. So the fundraising component has been very difficult. I do think we're starting to make more of a footprint because we've been around for a while, and now the word's getting around, and mostly through the word of mouth through kids, because I'm starting to hear that like when we have kids join our program, it's because they heard from somebody's auntie who heard from this person that they had a child in Ohana Arts or best friend. So it is starting to become like that, which is really exciting. And then recently, I remember talking to a funder who said that they would fund us this year, and I said, "I'm so grateful, thank you." And they're like, "Yeah, no, our trustees know you guys, and I don't even know who these trustees are." So it is starting to really open up, but it is that has been an uphill battle for us, is just the fundraising, and because we want to grow at a faster rate, but we also know that we have to be careful, and we have to make sure our business model works. And there's been a lot of I don't want to say trial and error. Most of the time we've been very lucky, but a lot of it does feel like it is kind of like, well, we'll see how this works out, and sometimes we're a little bit on tenterhooks about how that's going to be. That's the biggest challenge. And then from the pandemic, what we did was we pivoted to the online platform. So instead of saying we're going to cancel everything, we just we did all of our programming online. And then in 2021, we did the sort of safe cohort bubbles in a hybrid situation where some of it was online and some of it was in person, socially distant at the convention center. And then we came back to UH. And I think the biggest hurdle for us with the pandemic was getting our student base back, because it had been so many years. There were so many kids who hadn't done the performing arts. There were the younger kids who had never done it. So to convince them to do it was an uphill battle. And we're just last summer, actually, after the 2 years of post-pandemic, I guess you could say, we were finally back to our numbers from before the pandemic. It took us a couple of years, so that also took a financial toll on us as well. But I think we're getting there. I think we're back to where we were, and even further along than we were before. So that's the good news. Yeah. So I would just say fundraising is number one, the most difficult thing to do, especially when you're trying to prove yourself as a new organization in a landscape where we are, where we're kind of insular.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I love how you spoke about it's not about competition, it's about providing a whole new pie. It's about,
Yeah.
just doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And not that one is wrong, one is better. Like it's just we and I think that's one of the big things I try to kind of get across to folks. It's when especially in the work that I do, people are like, "Oh,
Mhm.
aren't you like worried about?" And I'm like, "No, I'm happy that there's more folks getting involved in, whether it's the peace building world or the
Yeah.
conflict services world or
Sure.
the talk story world. Like, there's so much to share out there. There isn't a one cookie cutter way to do something.
Hmm.
Many times it's a individualized approach that we have to um, connect with folks on. So I
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing. And I wonder for
Thanks.
if you have any advice for young artists looking to pursue a career in the performing arts, just from your own experience.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I find to be the most really helpful things is to be enterprising and entrepreneurial, because um yes, I think it's wonderful to definitely audition for stuff, get experiences wherever you can in the conventional way, because that's only going to help you in everything else. But I also think being enterprising is great, because so much of my career, especially as a blind artist, I've had to go in through the back door. Because what most of the my colleagues, I should say, when we were getting out of school, they were auditioning for young artist programs. Basically, what those are is it's like if it's entering an opera program at the ground floor level. They're looking for people to cover roles. They don't want to pay them as much as these union folks who are, getting the leads, and, or even on the chorus, or not the chorus, but like just um, people who are doing it professionally for a long time, and there's a certain pay grade that they have to observe. And so when you get in at the ground floor, it's a great way to gain experience, and you're starting to make a living. Um, but you also have to be able to see what the people on stage are doing, because you're not always going to have stage time. And then you then get up on stage and do exactly what they do. And then if you cover a role, you have to be ready to do it. So as a blind person, that's not something that's going to work for me, because first of all, I can't see the stage. Um, And so, and it's also the liability. They're so worried that I'm going to fall into the orchestra pit, which has never happened. Yay. But there's always that concern. And so I've had to have people like directors who have known me in a different way, who have their small boutique opera companies say, "Hey, I want you for this role, and this is how we're going to do it." And that's how the industry, I've gotten to know the industry, and how people in the industry have gotten to know me, is through these more boutique-y, backdoor sort of opportunities. And also, one of the things I remember in New York being so frustrated because it was like every audition I did, all it took was me walking in the room for them. I already knew it was a no before I opened my mouth because they were already afraid. There's, so many stereotypes about blindness and stuff. So, what I realized is I was going to have to create my own opportunities. The reason I relate so much to kids here in Hawaii is because, a lot of kids are Asian, and we have a very strong Asian demographic. And the theater community, while it's really getting a lot better, and there's a lot more Asian people really doing well in the industry, we're still dealing with a predominantly white world out there for musical theater. And so it's going to take a while to change perspectives all around. I think it will happen. And it's probably going to happen more quickly over the years. But for now, I see that opportunities are not going to be as strong for certain kinds of, actors. And it's sad because they're just as talented as their other Caucasian counterparts, but just ignorance and also just, the way the world has worked, for so many years, it's going to take a while to change things on a grand scale. So I see a lot of myself in these students in that sense, even though it's a very different issue. And so I do say to these people, just like how I worked on my career, is just create your own opportunities. Like that's one of the reasons that Jenny and I, we started a chamber music program in New York, where we were creating our own concerts where we could perform, but also invite our friends to perform. And excuse me, why we started writing music. So there's other ways to skin a cat, as they say. Gosh, that sounds terrible for a peaceful sort of thing. How about to skin a potato? But yeah, so there's just different ways to do things. And so always, I think, to learn ways of learning to write a grant. I know it sounds like a horrible thing to have to tell somebody because it's so tedious and arduous, but learn all the ins and outs of how you can create your own work and get it out there. Because first of all, it's going to add to what's out there in this beautiful patchwork quilt that is the arts. And also it just gives you more opportunities to get into the industry and get known. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing how you've connected to it and some of the hurdles. And uh yeah, it's I'm so sorry for, but obviously you've gone through the experience um and if anything, I always think about like modeling, and I'm hoping
Mm-hmm.
whoever, hears this, or because you are not the first and you will not be the last um
Mm,
artist that is blind, that wants to
right.
go into the performing arts. And so I hope that being blind does not stop someone from pursuing this field. I think
Not
it's
at all.
it's if anything, you're modeling it right now, how hey, it can be done. It can be done well too. So
Oh, well,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
no, and I think, one of the things to tell anybody, because we're all gonna, I mean, I would say most of the people in the best of circumstances comes in when they talk to our kids, because we do this program called Wisdom Wednesdays, and that's at lunchtime. We have an artist come out, or somebody from the industry to come out and talk about career. But whenever we've had performers talking, they say 99% of it is rejection, for anyone in this field, just because there's so many people vying for the same roles and this and that. And there's only so many opportunities, right? So when you get that 1% of opportunities, it's like, oh my gosh, yes. So somebody may feel and look successful, but they've also dealt with 99% of rejection. But you learn so much more from rejection than you do from the opportunities. We're like, yay, I got
Yes.
something.
Yes.
Because you learn
So
how to
true.
pivot. So I,
Yes.
I tell people, never be a victim of your challenges. Your challenges are the things you're going to learn from the most. And
Yeah.
so and so your challenges are your biggest gifts.
Yeah.
They may seem like at the time like such a pain in the neck, but you know what? They're your biggest gifts
Yeah.
because they
And
teach you so much more. Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah, so
No,
true.
yeah.
And I think especially the longer we do this, folks kind of see things as like, oh, they start putting the label of like expert on
Hmm.
someone. And I
Sure.
think being able to share some of those, challenges or failures that we've had, and that we
Mm,
continue to have, I think are so important just to like humanize the work because unfortunately, we tend to uh, just maybe it's just a thing of society. We put people on pedestals,
sure.
as they keep achieving uh wonderful things. And so I think yeah, thank you. Thank you for just doing all that you do.
Thank
Couple
you.
more things. So
Yeah.
how do you hope Ohana Arts will be remembered in the years to come? Think about like legacy. I know
Oh,
16 years. You have many, many more decades to go.
oh, yeah. Well, that's a really good question. Well, I guess Jenny's and my hope is that our goal is to make it so that it's never just a memory, but that actually we bring on people, that it lives beyond, it becomes sustainable, and
Love
that
it.
it's just, yeah. And so certainly, of course, Peace on Your Wings is something, that we hope will be remembered. But again, I feel so, and I tell everybody this, I forget about the fact that we wrote it. And the reason I say that is because we're servants of this message, and Sadako is really the trailblazer here. She's the one writing this story. She's the one sending it out, and we're the conduits, through this musical. And there's many others too. I mean, there have been a number of other Sadako, like from what I understand, there's a lot of little like there are a lot of books, as you know. There's a lot of straight plays about her. The Grateful Crane Ensemble, I think, was inspired by Sadako. So there's so many things that her message and her energy has put out into the world. But just for the sake of promoting peace through this visceral way, like I really do hope that Peace on Your Wings becomes that legacy of Ohana Arts. um and yeah, and I just think, yeah, just I think that's just the main thing, is just really getting Ohana Arts to be something that it continues way beyond us, and that it just, somebody else will take it over, and then somebody else will take it over. So that's our goal. And in the worst case scenario, if that doesn't happen, then yeah, I just hope we'll be remembered for that concept of giving students an outlet and to grow and to become who they are meant to be. That's the main thing.
Thank you for your honesty and humbleness as you engage on the unknown. But yeah, I just before we finish off today, I
Yeah.
do want to or maybe you want to share any future plans, exciting projects. I earlier you had shared Peace on Your Wings is coming to us in 2025 right here on the island.
Yeah. So that's, yes. So in 2025, Peace on Your Wings will be back. And
Yes.
so what's happened is that the mayor of Hiroshima, Mayor Matsui, has invited Peace on Your Wings to come back, and the city of Hiroshima will be sponsoring us. So meaning they'll pay for all of our expenses once we get to Hiroshima: theater costs, equipment costs, all of the things, and hotels, meals. And when we get there, we'll be one of it's the way they make it sound is that we're really going to be sort of one of the focus points of the commemoration of the 80th anniversary. So the Peace Day service will happen on the 6th, and some of us will be at the Peace Day service, which is, I mean, we've been researching this for many, many years. So I cannot wait I mean, I'm sure I will be sobbing mess at this Peace Day service. Um, and then for us to do performances around that and publicized as part of the commemoration. And then before that, so Hawaii, just for those of your listeners who don't know, Hawaii is a sister state with the prefecture, Hiroshima prefecture. And Honolulu is also, and I learned this just recently, Honolulu, it was on Hiroshima, that was the first sister relationship of Honolulu, from what I understand. Like it was 1957 or something like that, very early on. So if you think about Sadako, it was really 2 years after she died. I'm hoping I got the year right. So that's really amazing that we were a sister state and a sister city. So we're working really hard to make sure that the 80th anniversary gets, recognized, and also doing that through Peace on Your Wings. So we will be doing performances before we leave for Japan at UH at the Kennedy Theater at Manoa. And that will be in the second week of July. And I don't want to give you exact dates yet because I don't want to get it wrong, but it will be the second week of July. And people, if they go to our website, will be able to find out how to get tickets and stuff. So we want to do a big, really want people, because we always say Peace on Your Wings is more than a musical, it's a movement. And just so we want people to get involved. We want them to come see the show, but also just to become aware. especially in this time where, there's multiple global conflicts. We think about the Middle East, think about Ukraine, and just the divisiveness, even just with the election in our own country. It really is time, for people to understand Sadako's message and non-proliferation, and that anger doesn't get anything done other than divide the world. When you think about it, there's so much more oneness to who we are at the center of our being. We're all one. We all have the same, basic, like, basic goals. And that's to be loved. That's to be, just understood, and that to make our way in the world. Those are the basic fundamental things we all have in common. And we complicate it so much, which is why I love Sadako's story. And you realize we're all Sadakos, we're all that. And so that's why, yeah. So I hope people will come to see the show at the Kennedy Theater in July. And then just in the future, yeah, we're going to be working on the show with Lee Tonouchi, and we'll be doing more programming. Our eventual goal, and we really hope that we can make this happen, is to build a performing arts high school for the arts, like a public school, where anyone from any background who has an interest in the arts can go to this school. And so that is, I know this is going to be down the line and it'll be a life's work, but when we talk about legacy, we do see that as something that's an, tangible, sustainable thing that could happen way beyond, our lifetime. Yeah. And so I would just say, for people who want to know about our future, you go to our website, ohanaarts.org, and Peace on Your Wings seems to be having some future stuff going on with it as well that we're not sure about. We're not sure what's going to take hold, but there's a lot of interest all over the country. So we hope that people will continue to follow what we're doing with Peace on Your Wings as well.
Laurie, thank you so much. I love the idea of a performing arts high school. That's amazing. I'm gonna keep an eye
Yeah, we
when
just have to figure out how we're going to do it. That's more the question, is how,
dream
but
big, dream big. I love it.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Well, Laurie, I just have to say thank you so much for your time today, for your
Thank
grace
you.
and for your kindness. And yeah, you're right. I mean, just love, belonging, and our place. Like that's
Yeah.
really, I think I've shared this in a couple times. And so it's well, it's thinking about things that you said today, talking about the arts as healing. We had another event
Mm.
a week or so ago about the performing arts, and that's kind of what came up through the conversation about performing arts as healing. The terminology of
Mm.
healing keeps coming up in my life lately, which I think is so appropriate
Ah,
with everything that's going on.
yeah.
And one of the things I always think about and that I've shared on other occasions is how, I mean, if we just get to talking to each other, we start realizing we actually have a lot in common
Yes.
once we actually talk to each other. But
Yeah.
yeah, we do complicate things. I sometimes share, I think as we get older, we adults complicate. My youth remind me about how simple life can be and how
Yes.
just going back to the basics. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's we do make things a little more complicated as time goes on.
That's
But
true.
thank you for providing a space for our youth to thrive, to feel loved, to find place, to find
Of
belonging.
course.
I just thank you a million for today. And I
Oh, it's a
know we're
pleasure.
gonna work for some other future episodes with other
Mhm.
folks from the Ohana Arts. And so look forward to evolving and learning more about the organization and the people and the family that makes it what it is exactly. So thank you, Laurie. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way about you, Jose. You're doing all the right things. You're doing all the good work. We're so grateful to you for everything you're doing and that you brought your beautiful spirit to Hawaii.
Thank you. You're too kind. But for folks who are listening, this will be aired on Spotify as well as KTUH Honolulu, the UH Manoa campus radio station. And then we'll also have the video recording on the YouTube channel, Peacebuilding Initiatives. Thank you again, everyone.